Soup might just be the best thing in the world for us. But what kind of soup should we be drinking and why? Now, before we get into all the benefits of soup and the kinds of soups that you should be making to increase your energy and just live a much better life overall, we want to look at how digestion works in Chinese wisdom. So you can think of it very simply. The spleen and the stomach. The stomach is like the pot on the stove, and the spleen is like the stove. So the spleen is the fire. The fire boils the water in the pot. It gives it the heat so that soup, whatever you're making in your pot can boil and get hot. Now, if your spleen is weak, right, which can happen over years of poor eating, all kinds of reasons. If your spleen is weak, that means the fire under the pot is going to be small. So if you've ever made a soup, say you've got a big pot on it, and then you throw a bunch of stuff in, and you turn the fire on really low, it's going to take a very, very long time to get the water in the pot boiling. So a good digestion is somebody who has a strong spleen. It's really going to get that digestion going, really get the fire going. So if you have weak digestion and just the kind of diets that we have, there's a very good chance that just about virtually everybody in the West has some sort of weak digestion, some sort of injury has happened to the spleen. Now, the good news is one of the best things that we can eat is soup. So why is soup so good? Well, to put it kind of a gross way, it's almost like soup is half digested, right? You put the food in, it boils it out, it takes a lot of the nutrients into the liquid, into the soup itself, and then when you have that, and it goes into your body, one, it's going to be nice and warm, so the body doesn't need to warm that up. A lot of the nutrients have already been pulled into the water, and the food itself has been kind of broken down. It becomes very soft and mushy. This makes it very, very easy for the spleen and stomach to do what it needs to do. You can just think of if you are making, again, if we go back to the stomach is like a pot on the stove and the spleen is the fire. If your fire is only at low and you want to add stuff to that pot to keep the boil going, well, what you would add would be more hot water or vegetables that are already cooked and are warm, things like that. Then it won't take as long for the pot to start boiling again. So this is going to be one of the biggest reasons why soup is good for virtually anyone. Even if you don't have a weak digestion, it helps prevent you from getting a weak digestion. It's very easy for your stomach to digest the nutrients of soup. Now, you might be asking yourself, hey, I've read some stuff online that say raw vegetables are the best. They have the most nutrients. Once you start to cook something, it breaks those nutrients down. You don't get as much of them. Okay, so we can have this discussion. So what I would argue is that the way in which you absorb those nutrients, if you get them through raw foods, it's going to be very difficult for your digestion because basically it has to cook those foods in your gut. It has to go through this whole process. It has to expend a lot of energy to warm them, to process them, to cook them. And then when you finally are able to pull the nutrients out of them, my argument is that it's just, you're not going to be able to pull nearly as much out. You're going to hurt your spleen, you're going to hurt your stomach, and you're not going to get nearly as many nutrients. Whereas if you have soup, if you put all those vegetables, all those meats, all of that into the soup, then it is much easier for the body to absorb those nutrients. I mean, just think about it. A lot of the nutrients are going to be in the liquid itself. The liquid can easily go right through the stomach, down into the intestines, and they can start pulling out all those nutrients. So even though you might lose a little bit of the nutrients in the process of making the soup, you're going to be able to absorb so much more, and you won't injure your digestion. So why not just put all the vegetables in the blender? Okay, so that's another good point. So in theory, it would be a little bit easier for the body to absorb those nutrients if it goes into the blender. But again, it still has to basically cook those in the stomach. So one thing that you can do, and it might sound weird, but actually there are soups like this. For instance, you can take blended carrots and make a soup out of that. I've had a very delicious ginger and carrot soup where both of those were blended into it. So it becomes more of a stew. It's a little bit thicker, but that's a great way to take in the energies of the carrots and the ginger. Nowadays, we talk a lot about superfoods, but we don't talk about how you can actually get the benefits of those. This video, we're talking about how you get the benefits. There's actually, any food has many benefits to it. Even you think simple things like potatoes and carrots, if you're really able to absorb those nutrients, they're great. Soup is the best superfood. So the more that we can incorporate soup into our diet, the better. You don't necessarily have to have every single meal just be soup, but one thing that you'll notice, for example, in Asia, almost every meal has a little bit of a soup. Sometimes they will start with the soup, sometimes they will end with the soup. That just depends on the region that you're in. But the simple fact that they put so much emphasis on having a soup, it tells us that culturally, for thousands of years, they've found, well, this is a really great way to get your nutrients. So as you're eating your soup, be sure that you take a little bit and just put that right on the subscribe button, and then take a little bit more and sprinkle it over like. And if you have any questions, any comments, you would like me to make a video about something that I talked about in this video, or about any topic at all, please leave that in the comments below.